Pep Guardiola was asked what inspired the second half performance against Chelsea. He said it was a mindset and not tactics. With that, I welcome you to another exciting edition of Sports Pizza. It is a sports show where we give you all of the juicy information, education, and top-notch analysis. My name, of course, is Edwin Onyebolise. There's so much to unpack on today's edition, and of course, I'm joined by my homeboy Bankole Oladuni. And Banky is also our expert when it comes to the Tipsters Corner, where he gives out tips for punters going into games over the weekend. Once again, it is Sports Pizza. Let's go on a short break, catch our breath. When we return, we'll delve straight into all of the action, and of course started with the title race heating up in England. Welcome back. It is heating up, Banky. Welcome to the show. Good to have you.
Edwin, it's good to be here. It was an exciting weekend once again.
Yeah.
Especially in England.
Are you sure it was exciting?
Yeah, for English Premier League fans it was. But for Italian fans, I'm not sure it was too exciting.
Milan fans.
Yes, it was a backside whooping, especially at the San Siro. It's not something a lot of Milan fans would enjoy looking back on. But you look at a team who at some point was 19 games unbeaten, and have now suffered the consecutive losses in as many games. You look at that and you just imagine how bad it could still get. Seeing how they're just a few points behind, ahead of the guys who are challenging for the final Champions League places. But yeah, aside from that, the league title across Europe, I think aside from the English Premier League, the Spanish La Liga looks to be done and dusted. The Italian Serie A is done and dusted. The French Ligue 1 is the French Ligue 1. So I think the only place where you can still get a bit of excitement is the English Premier League.
Before we do the English Premier League, quick one, your thoughts on Como versus Inter Milan, 7-goal thriller?
Yeah, it was expected. Como is a team that are not shy of scoring goals. Inter Milan are a team that are not shy of conceding goals either. There's a reason why at the top of their summer transfer list is a goalkeeper. And summer this season has been shaky at best. They have also had a bit of problem finding the right combination for their centre backs. Akonji has been good, but he has not been really consistent all through the season. But for Como, they are a very exciting team. They are a young team. Like I said, they are a team who really don't know how and when to defend. They are a team who are not, like I said, they are not shy of scoring goals. You look at that Como team, you look at Cesc Fabregas and how he has emphasized on vertical style of play. You look at the players that they have also, the likes of Nico Paz, the likes of Kakares. These are guys who you would expect to see in a team that's scoring that type of goals. 4-3 thriller. It was probably the most exciting game in Italy, especially for a league that goals are difficult to come by. You look at the Daniel Malin, who is already third highest goal scorer, and has only played in the league for 5 minutes. So you look at that, and it's always nice to see a 7-goal thriller in the Serie A, especially this season.
All right, straight to the English Premier League. Bankole, at some point, it felt like Arsenal were going to run away with the league title. As it stands now, Banky, Man City win their remaining games, Man City will be champions. Arsenal win their remaining games, Arsenal will be champions. That is the current state of the English Premier League.
Yeah, I must say it's quite disappointing from Arsenal. I had to take a look back at the Leicester City's season. I don't think they even had a 9 points gap, on the table at some point, and yet they still went on to win the Premier League title. You look at an Arsenal team who have had a lot of practice in terms of trying to challenge for the Premier League title, who have finished second in consecutive seasons, and you'd expect them to know how to handle situations like this. You expect them to carry themselves better in situations like this, and yet you're still seeing lackluster performances from them. And for a team that has been impressive for majority of the season, it's quite disappointing to see how bad they have gotten. Yes, they still have the advantage. Their destiny is still in their hands to some certain extent. But when you consider their opponents, when you consider that City are gradually getting in their groove, when you consider City has an outstanding game, the game at the Etihad is still also in favor of City. But for Arsenal, I don't expect too much from them. Like I said, you still have to go to the Etihad and you still have to prove that you want to win, the Premier League title. If you go to the Etihad and you go there and start being, overly defensive, I don't think it will work out. I think it is time for Mikel Arteta to actually prove doubters wrong. I think he has done a good job in proving everybody right about their conception of Arsenal. But I think for Arsenal, it is. Yeah, I'm not one to use the whole bottling gimmick and all of that. But I think this is a team who don't know how to handle pressure. This is a team who, like I said, for a team who you'd expect to have had a lot of practice, in terms of title runnings, who have had a lot of practice in losing, Premier League titles. You'd expect them to carry themselves better, but so far it has been very disappointing.
Last week we had a mini argument about quality and character. I still maintain character.
No, I didn't disagree with you. My only issue is that I think both character and quality goes hand in hand. I think for us now, have they shown enough quality in the last couple of weeks? I don't think so. They are struggling to score goals. You look at Kai Havertz, you look at Victor Gyökeres, you look at Gabriel Martinelli, you look at Leandro Trossard. These guys have been average for majority of the season. But now it is getting to the part of the season where you need your attackers to at least bail you out in certain situations. And the lack of quality is starting to show. Yes, character would also come into play. For Man City, I think they will probably need a whole lot of character, or their character have shown, in recent weeks as to how we've counted them out, on several occasions to, in the Premier League. But you look at how they've always bounced back. You look at how they've always managed to keep themselves, in contention of the Premier League title. So I think it is a case of both traits, coming in hand to hand. But I don't think it is. It has to be one or the other. I don't think it has to be character or it has to be quality. I think you need to have some certain level of quality to show whatever character that you have.
Bankole, still with Arsenal and Manchester City. So I read an article and the writer said something profound. He said that when you watch teams like Manchester City in their title-winning seasons, you look at Liverpool in their title-winning seasons, these teams go out to play to win. These teams are always on the front foot. But he said when you look at Arsenal under Mikel Arteta, the last 3 seasons, he's focused more on trying not to lose a game than trying to win a game. Do you agree with that line?
Yes, I agree. And I think the biggest indication of that will be their game against Man City this weekend. You look at the approach to that game. If he decides to sit back and defend and hope to catch one on the break, then it will tell us exactly, what has been wrong with this Arsenal project for the last 3 years. They are a team who are yet to find the balance between being a very good attacking team and also being a very good defensive team. It is always one or the other, for Arsenal. Their first season where they finished second, they were a very good attacking team, but they failed to cover up, at the back, and subsequently it has been, a very good defensive team and always, been average, up front. And I also don't think their recruitment has improved, this team a lot. From that very first, Martinelli, Odegaard, and Saka, they have not brought enough quality in, to either challenge these guys of their starting position or to raise the ceiling. You look at all of that, and I think it says I wouldn't really, put it all on Arteta. He's not entirely in charge, of recruitment. You look at the sporting directors that have been in charge, the Andre Bettas of this world, the Edus of this world. But I think this is a team that, when you compare them to other teams who have challenged for the title, I'm even trying to compare them to the Leicester City team who won the title. You look at how, at some points in the course of the season, they had to, adapt. They were bringing out that 1-0 victories, that 2-1 victories. They were still finding that balance between being a very efficient team up front and also, keeping it tight at the back. But for us now, it is always one extreme or the other, and that has cost them, a loss this season. And I think it probably might even cost them, over the course of the remainder of the season. So, like I said, the biggest indicator of this problem will be how they approach, that game against Manchester City. For a team who has their destiny in their hands, you would expect them to take the game to Manchester City. You expect them to, beat Manchester City at home and you've won the Premier League title. So I expect a team, to go all out and try to, take the game to Manchester City. But knowing Arsenal, knowing Mikel Arteta, knowing what we saw from the very first leg or a lot of games this season, I don't think we'll see that. And I think that would also be one of the reasons why they might not win the Premier League title.
For Manchester City, a lot has changed. I won't forget that a couple of weeks ago, they were in this exact position where we said if you win your remaining games, you win the Premier League title. They went on to lose or drop points against Nottingham Forest and West Ham, respectively. I'm tempted to think that they will drop points. I also think Arsenal will drop points, but that game at the Etihad will go a long way in deciding who will win the title. So I'm going to put you on the spot. Manchester City versus Arsenal this weekend, on Sunday, by the way, 4:30 p.m. local time. Who's going to win?
I think City will win.
Let me leave out the result. How do you see this playing out?
I think City will win. I think you look at Arsenal, you look at how, the whole talk of fatigue might also be getting to the team. The whole amount of games that they've had to play, the European commitments, and the fact that City have crashed out of the Champions League, they have enough time, to recover, from their Premier League games in the weekend. So I think for City at home, with the form of a couple of players, the Nico Riley's of this world, the Ryan Shekis of this world, Antoine Semenyo has been probably signing of the season, and he came in January. Same thing can be said for Maguire. You look at that team, and it is a team that, to a certain extent, has a consistent starting 11, a consistent, backline with Maguire and Kusanov looks to have established, a centre-back partnership. That was not something we could have said, a couple of weeks ago. Yeah. The Nico Riley, it seems like he has found his feet, at left back, or there's a particular, the introduction of Rodri also has helped, in also, ensuring that the midfield, is quite stable. So I think for City, it is a team that is gradually getting momentum, a team that is gradually on the upward trajectory, and Haaland is not scoring goals yet, but you expect him to kick on, at some point in this season. So for me, I think, and like I said, for an Arsenal team who would most likely go to that game on a defensive approach, I think they will suffer dearly for it, and Manchester City will win. Fingers
crossed on that particular time, Manchester City versus Arsenal. I'm very sure that the eyes of the world will be focused on the Etihad. Let's go on a short break. When we return, there's so much more still to unpack on the show. It is Sports Pizza. We'll be right back. Welcome back. It is the second half of Sports Pizza. Remember, you can follow us on our social media platforms. The handles are showing on your screen. We also have a YouTube page where you can catch up on previous editions of the show. Banky, before we leave the English Premier League, Aston Villa draw points, Chelsea draw points, Liverpool won, and the race for the top 5 in the Premier League continues to garner momentum. For Chelsea, I think they're all but out. Yeah. I look at that team and I feel like, where's that spark going to come from? Where's the inspiration going to come from?
There is nothing positive coming out from Chelsea, and I think their biggest problem is the coach. I don't think he has made any ounce of improvements ever since he has joined this team. Yeah. As a matter of fact, I think the team has declined, rapidly since his introduction to the team. So for Chelsea, and you look at their fixtures towards the end of the season, they have Liverpool to play, they have United to play, they have Brighton to play, they also have Sunderland, to play. So this is not a run of games that you would favor a Chelsea side to pick up points here and there. Lest I forget, they still have a certain Spurs to play. So for Chelsea, I don't see them breaking into that final 5th position. 4 points between themselves and Liverpool. Even though you can say Liverpool, Aston Villa and the likes might be bad, but I think Chelsea will still manage to find a way to be worse than these guys. But for United, I think they're in pole position. I think you beat Chelsea, and that's it. You are qualified for the Champions League already. For Liverpool, I think they'll do just about enough, to scale through. Aston Villa also, aside from the European, commitment, I think they'll still also do just about enough to qualify. But for Chelsea, I think when you even look at the amount of points they are using to be ahead of the likes of Brentford and Everton, there's still a chance that they might find themselves, out of European position, completely. And that is just what you would expect from, the Chelsea side who have gone 3 games in the Premier League without scoring a goal and also losing. So I don't see them breaking into that final 5th position. And from England, we'll go straight to Spain. Quick one. La Liga title is done and dusted. Done and dusted. There is no magic. There is no voodoo Real Madrid can use to come back anymore. 7 points gap, and you still expect Real Madrid to still drop points in sensitive matches. Their Clásico, which I will still favor Barcelona, to still win in that particular encounter. So for Real Madrid, I think it's their season is done, and it's up to Florentino Perez and whoever it is that will be the manager next season to determine how they'll move forward.
And Banky, one of the biggest stories from this weekend, that's from the world of football, is the appointment of Marie-Louise Eta from Union Berlin, who have appointed her as the manager of the men's first team. She became the first woman to manage a men's team in Europe's top 5 league. It's groundbreaking, you must say, for ladies who are looking to pivot into a men's dominated world.
Yeah, it is. And a lot of people have talked about how a woman can cope with a man's game. I don't think it's going to be a problem. I think coaching is much more mental than physical. If you know what you're doing, I think players will be key, players will be keen, to buy into your philosophy or whatever it is. And when you also consider what is a handful of games, left in the season, then it shouldn't be a problem. Hopefully, to lay down a marker, for other women, to also try out their coaching acumen, in the elite, competitions. But I think it was also easier for her, because she was an assistant to the manager who was relieved of his duties. But hopefully we'll start seeing women getting integrated into coaching staffs. We'll start seeing women getting integrated into top teams. We already know that they are elite coaches. They are elite female coaches. The Emma Hayes of this world, the Sonia Bompasters of this world. These are women who I think on their day are quite good when it comes to the tactical side of things. So I think it's not going to be a problem. At some point, we probably might be seeing it in other leagues in Spain, England, and also in the Italian Serie A.
And in the MPFL, Banky, it was big wins for Ikorodu City, Rivers United. You also have the likes of Enyimba picking up wins as they look to stay off relegation. For Remo Stars, they lost to Barao. Shooting Stars dropped points at home to Kwara United. Wiki Tourist with the only away win this week, defeated Bayelsa United 0-1 away from home. Quick look at the standings. Rivers United currently top with 2 points. Advantage over Rangers, who are second with 56 points. Ikorodu City are third, and you have Abia Warriors completing the top 4. In fact, the difference between first and third, Ikorodu City, is 3 points. 4 games left of the season.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting run of games. I think Rivers United should have been much more comfortable when you consider the amount of game in hand that they had, and yet they still managed to lose and drop points. In majority of those games. Enugu Rangers, it has been a good season, but I don't think a lot of people would have expected them to still be in the race alongside Rivers United at this point. Like I said, when you consider the advantage Rivers United had. But yeah, I think the biggest disappointment might still be Remo Stars, who are still in the relegation waters. But it has been a really exciting end to especially in the top half of the table, both for the championship and also continental places. But yeah, hopefully we'll get to see a much more interesting finale in the MPFL.
And in the bottom 4, Bayelsa United, Wiki Tourist, Remo Stars, and Kun Khalifa. You look at that table, from Enyimba, who are currently, not even Enyimba, from Niger Tornadoes, who are 11th on the table, down to Kun Khalifa, the points difference is just 4. So while it's a battle at the top of the table, it's also a battle in the second half of the table. All right, before we do our video for the quick one from the world of tennis, Yannick Sinner defeated Carlos Alcaraz in Monte Carlo in straight sets. It was his 3rd Masters 1000 title of the year. He's on a 22-game winning streak in the Masters 1000 title. He's back to world number 1, the first time since November 2025. Bankole, don't you think Yannick Sinner is actually the face of tennis? Or, let me rephrase this, don't you think Yannick Sinner is actually the guy to beat and not Carlos Alcaraz?
No, I don't think so. I think both of them would share that position. I think both of them would, are both on the same level. Yes, you might see instances where Sinner might be better than Alcaraz, and you might see instances where Alcaraz might be better than Sinner. But I think both these are 2 players who are on a certain pedestal in comparison to every other person. So I think for Sinner, it has been a very, very interesting 2026. Aside from the Grand Slam, this is his 3rd consecutive Masters that he has won. He's playing out of his skin at the moment. But my problem with Sinner, and this is a personal bias, by the way, I don't think a player who has had controversy in terms of drugs and all of that, should be the face of tennis. I think I'll rather pitch my tents towards a Carlos Alcaraz, who so far has not been involved in any controversy. But aside from that, I think Sinner is a phenomenal player. I think Alcaraz is also a phenomenal player. Yes, they'll both get the better of each other over the course of the year. But for Alcaraz, I think he will still be satisfied if he loses the 1,000 titles and goes on to win the French Open. I think it will still be considered a success for the Spaniard. But yeah, but these are two players who are clearly better than every other person.
All right, great one here from Banky. Let's go on a short break. We'll give you a video for the week. When we return, we'll wrap up the show with our Tipster's Corner. All right, welcome back. It is time for the Tipster's Corner. But for our video of the week, let me just remind Chelsea and Arsenal fans that, hey, not to worry. It's just for this week. Better days ahead. For Man City fans, you can enjoy all of this.
Yeah, all 5 of them.
Yeah. Straight up to the Tipster's Corner. Remember that we are not responsible for any bet loss. We only give you expert opinion on the possible outcomes of these games. You have to be 18 years and above, and of course, always try to bet responsibly. Banky, we have 2 games, both from the English Premier League. It is Chelsea versus Manchester United, and the big one at the Etihad, Manchester City versus Arsenal.
I think for Chelsea against United, I think we should be looking at an over 1.5 situation here. Probably both teams to score also seems like something that would suffice. For Manchester City Arsenal, like I said, I think I'll be putting my money on Manchester City to win this game. But if you want to err on the side of caution, you can double chance Manchester City a home win or draw. Home win or draw and on a 4.5 is also something that you can put your money on for both games. All
right, there you have it from Banky. Always remember to bet responsibly. You have to be 18 years and above. And Sports Pizza is not responsible for any bet loss. It's only expert analysis, opinions on the possible outcomes of these games. This is where we drop content on today's edition of the show. I'm sure you've had so much fun with us, enjoyed all of the analysis, information, and of course, education. Follow us on our social media platforms and head straight to our YouTube channel where you can catch up on all the previous editions of the show. Banky, always a pleasure having you on set.
Yeah, Edwin, it's always nice to be, and from me to our viewers, have yourself a lovely, lovely weekend.
From me, Edwin Onyebole, enjoy all of the sporting action. We'll see you same time next week.